Dear viewers, the story is getting more and more interesting, and heating up. Chengfeng fears for his safety after realizing the mysterious expert behind Liona and Zhiyu's rescue also kidnapped Shoude and Zynn. Desperate for protection, he dispatches Anson to Mocheng with a 1 billion RMB advance check to rehire the He family for 2 billion RMB annually. Meanwhile, Liona and Zhiyu return to the Du residence, claiming an unknown benefactor treated and released them. Jufe arrives, secretly frustrated that their survival weakens his leverage over the Su family fortune. Enjoy the story, thank you.
Chapter 2758. After hanging up the phone, Chung Fong felt black for a while. Anson on the side hurried forward and asked cautiously, "Master, Liona and Missy, have they really returned to Du's house?" Chung Fong rubbed his temples, nodded weakly, and sighed. "Anson, things seem to have gone to the worst." Anson asked quickly, "Master, why are you saying this?" Chung Fong sighed, "Hey, all of this is extremely consistent with my worst assumptions before. Things have started to develop in the direction I least want to see. The Su family is really going to be in big trouble this time." Anson asked in surprise, "Master, have you previously guessed that their wives will be safe?" "Yes." Chung Fong rubbed his temples and said weakly, "I thought that even if they were rescued, it would be difficult for them to survive such a serious car accident. Maybe when the other party took them away, there were already 2 corpses, but I did not expect that they would actually survive, and the other party put them back, which proves that the mysterious person behind not only has hands and eyes open to the sky but also stood by them." Anson asked again, "Then, is this mysterious person related to the disappearance of the young master and the second young master?" Chung Fong nodded. "There must be a relationship." Anson looked shocked, and said, "Master, we have investigated Oris Hill before. The city has nothing to do with Crouching Tiger, or a hidden dragon. It is nothing more than a few local companies and families, and Isaac from the Wade family seems to be the most powerful. In terms of size, how could it be possible to cultivate such a powerful person? Even the Wade family does not have this ability. If the Wade family really has this ability, after Chengfeng's death, they would not be able to crush and beat the Su family for so many years." Chung Feng's expression was dignified, and he said coldly, "I now suspect that this mysterious person is not from Oris Hill at all, and may not even be from China." "What?" Anson was even more horrified. "It's not from China. Where would it be? Is it from abroad? It can't be the Rothschild family, right? The Rothschild family hates the Wade family. Yes, in this case, they will never be able to deal with us, because once our strength is weakened, the Wade family will definitely be strengthened. How could the Rothschild family sit back and watch the Wade family fishermen profit?" As he said, Anson continued to analyze. "Chengfeng's wife's family is indeed very powerful, but in my impression, An family has always looked down upon the Wade family. Back then, An's pearl of the hand married into the Wade family. Ans were said to be very furious." Chung Fong waved his hand and sighed, "It's not the Rothschild family or Ans, but the Japanese Chinese." "Japanese Chinese?" Anson was even more surprised. "Master, the largest family in Japan is the Ito family. Among the top 4 families, there is no Chinese family, and even the first Ito family in Japan does not have power comparable to us. Its comprehensive strength is not that strong." "You don't understand," Chung Fong said. "This strength does not necessarily refer to economic strength, but strength in force." After talking, Chung Fong said again, "At the beginning, Jufe and Zhiyu were kidnapped by the Matsumoto family in Japan. Several top ninjas guarded them. After killing them, they would throw their bodies to Ito's residence in Kyoto. The whole plan was designed. The clothes were perfect, but in the end, these top ninjas were killed by a Chinese youth who we don't know where he came from." Anson exclaimed, "Master, you suspect that it was the mysterious Chinese youth who saved Liona and Missy this time?" Chung Fong said annoyedly, "I don't want him to be the same 10,000 in my mind, but now it seems that he can basically nail it. Besides this person, who else has such a strong ability to be able to deal with that car accident and rescue Liona and Zhiyu? Except for this person, who can abduct Shoude without showing off under our guard's nose. Except for this person, who can make Zynn disappear." Anson blurted out, "Master, if this is the case, then your personal safety must be strengthened." Otherwise, if this person wants to act on you and our defensive power is not strong enough, we are not going to be opponents at all." Chung Fong nodded repeatedly, and said in agreement, "Yes. The biggest problem now is that our military strength is severely insufficient. The He family has withdrawn. Only some other bodyguards are in the hospital. I am afraid that it will be unbearable in front of the mysterious man if he hits suddenly." With that said, he immediately told Anson, "Anson, you will fly to Northeast Desert City right now." Anson exclaimed, "Go to Mocheng." "Master, you let me see Luther." "Yes." Chung Fong said, "Go to see Luther, and apologize to him about Ruoli's affairs on my behalf, and tell him that if the He family is willing to continue to serve the Su family regardless of the past, I can give them for a year 2 billion yuan. 2 billion a year." Anson said dumbfounded, "Master, the remuneration we gave them before has increased from 200 million a year to 600 million. To be honest, this amount is already very high. If it rises to 2 billion all at once, this is more than a threefold increase." Chung Fong waved his hand. "What does it count even if it goes to triple? The key is that the most important thing is to solve the urgent needs. Now there is a powerful enemy after the Su family, who is invisible and intangible. If I don't defend myself, someday, I will also be arrested by the other party. Isn't the Su family finished?" Anson hurriedly bowed and said, "Master, I understand. I will set off now and go to Mocheng to see Luther, the head of the He family." Chung Fong nodded, directly wrote a $1 billion cash check, handed it to Anson, and said, "Take this check with you, hand it to Luther, and tell him whether he accepts my invitation or not, he can keep the check." After a pause, Chung Fong said again, "If he accepts the invitation, it is considered that I prepaid 50% of his salary. If he does not accept it, then the money is considered to be my compensation to the He family, in Ruoli's matter. After all, I am sorry for them." Anson couldn't help but said, "Master, if Luther really chooses the latter, wouldn't these billions of dollars be meat buns for the dogs?" Chung Fong shook his head and said, "You don't understand, most people who learn martial arts have a sense of arrogance, especially those who have made great achievements in martial arts like Luther, even more so. I understand Luther's character. He is destined to choose to reject my invitation completely, or accept it directly. It is impossible to choose to take the money and not do anything, so this is just polite and win him more favors." Anson hurriedly said, "Okay master, I understand, then I will start." Chung Fong nodded slightly and said, "Go, there is no airport in Mocheng. You have to arrange the helicopters at nearby airports in advance, so as to save time as much as possible." "Okay, Lord." Just when Jufe drove back to the Du's old house, and Anson set off for the airport overnight, the Du's old house at this time had become a sea of joy. The brothers and sisters of the Du family have been cultivated to be exceptionally united under the guidance of their father since they were young. In fact, regardless of whether brothers and sisters are close relatives, in the final analysis, in most families with children, it is difficult for the relationship between children to be absolutely intimate. Especially when the children are all grown-ups, and after their respective families start their own businesses, the big family with brothers and sisters is naturally less important than the small family with wives and children. Therefore, in real life and on the TV, we can often see that brothers and sisters turn their faces because of the fight for family property, or quarrel and even fight because of parental issues. Moreover, this is not only true of the poor but even more so for the rich. However, the brothers and sisters of the Du family are really twisted into a rope. Liona had an accident, and her brothers and sisters put aside everything in their hands, regardless of all costs, just to find her and her daughter. Now that she has finally returned safely, these brothers and sisters are naturally extremely happy. The eldest sister Haya had asked the chef to cook a new table, and she was waiting for her sister and niece to come, and the family to have a good celebration. But when they came back, Haya couldn't even care about her sister's dinner. She hugged the sister, and suddenly cried into tears. The family surrounded the mother and the daughter and asked them endlessly. The questions were also very concentrated. They just wanted to know who took them away after they had a car accident in the tunnel. Where did they go after they were taken away? And they must have been severely injured in the car accident, so who on earth was healing this injury? Liona faced the problems of her family and lied against her will. Actually, Zhiyu and I still don't know who saved us. After the car accident, we were almost unconscious when we woke up. We were already lying in a ward, and we can't see anything related to the name of the hospital in the ward. The doctors who came to treat us also wore masks and could not recognize who they were. Renal hurriedly asked her, then have you remembered the surrounding environment? For example, what are the distinctive buildings outside the window? No. Liona shook her head and said, in our ward, the windows were covered with opaque black glass film. Nothing could be seen. Zhiyu and I have been in the room during this period. We eat and drink, and provide all the daily necessities we need, but they just don't let us leave. Elijah asked in surprise, then how did they let you leave now? I don't know. Liona lied. They suddenly brought me and Zhiyu out, and then gave me a mobile phone to let me contact the family, and then I called you. Elijah frowned and pondered, this thing sounds strange. The person who saved you should be very powerful. He rescued you. He gave you treatment. In the end, even the identity not revealed. He didn't want to disclose, and he released you back without any conditions. I can't figure out why he is busy with this big circle. Simon said, Dad, maybe the other party is the opponent of the Su family. They couldn't understand what the Su family did, so they rescued Liona and Zhiyu. Elijah asked, the opponent of the Su family? Who? The Wade family. Although the Wade family is ranked second, how can they have this kind of ability? Simon nodded slightly, Dad's words are reasonable. Wade family should not be able to bear this. After speaking, he hurriedly asked Liona again, Liona, you and Zhiyu have been rescued for so long, haven't you found any clues? Liona quickly said, I haven't left the ward these days. I only saw doctors and nurses, but the doctors and nurses didn't tell us anything. Simon asked again, the person who saved you never showed up. Liona said, no, he didn't want to expose his identity. Elijah didn't have much doubt, and sighed, it seems that the knights are not only in the novels of old legends but also in real life. As he said, he suddenly thought of something and asked Zhiyu, by the way, Zhiyu, when you and Jufe were in Japan, you were also saved by a mysterious man. Yes, Zhiyu said hurriedly, thanks to my benefactor the time, otherwise, my brother and I would be dead in the hands of Japanese ninjas. Elijah sighed sincerely, one person can easily kill multiple ninjas. This is really amazing. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is a hero. After speaking, he hurriedly asked again with a flash of inspiration, by the way, could he be the one who saved you this time? Zhiyu vaguely said, this. I can't say this. After all, I haven't seen the true content, but it's possible. Elijah nodded and said, this man has his own motives to help you, anyway, it's okay. After that, he poured himself a glass of wine and said loudly, come. Let's have a drink together to celebrate the safe return of Liona and Zhiyu. The whole family was also excited, and one after another they picked up their wine glasses. At this moment, Jufe ran in quickly. Mom, Zhiyu. Seeing his mother and sister sitting at the dining table intact, Jufe yelled subconsciously. However, he was not so excited in his heart. Even, a little lost. Seeing his mother and sister in peace, he knew in his heart that he would lose a huge advantage in front of his grandfather Chengfeng. He has feelings for his mother and sister in his heart. However, in the face of the Su family's trillions of wealth, feelings did seem a little pale. The greater the immediate benefits, the weaker the family relationship. This is the characteristic of mankind since ancient times. In ancient times, countless royal family fratricides occurred across the world. It is not uncommon among the royal family that fathers kill sons, sons kill fathers, and even brothers kill each other. It's not that they really have no affection. On the contrary, family affection is really not worth mentioning in the face of huge benefits. If it is placed in a poor house, the two brothers' 3-square-acre land for their parents may turn their faces, and they may stay out of each other for a lifetime, but it is difficult to kill the brother because of 1-square-acre land. However, when this 3-acre land became the power and wealth of the entire kingdom, the brotherhood and family affection became less important. Jufe's heart at this time, the loss and disappointment are far greater than that point of comfort. However, he was hiding it pretty well, and no one was able to see anything unusual. When Zhiyu saw him, her eyes reddened immediately. Almost without thinking, she stood up, ran in front of Jufe, and plunged into his arms, crying and said, "Brother, I thought I would never see you in this life. After Ziyu's accident, what she misses most and worry about most is her brother Jufe. After all, their small family consists of 4 people in total. Mother has always been with her, and father has some stains, and these stains make him a little unacceptable, so she naturally misses her brother the most. Moreover, when she was in Japan, she experienced life and death with her brother, so the relationship between brother and sister was deeper. Although Jufe was disappointed in his heart, he still pretended to be distressed and patted her back gently, and said with emotion, "Zhiyu, it's best if you and mom are fine. During this time, I was so much worried." Quote, when grandfather Elijah heard this, he looked at him coldly, somewhat dissatisfied in his heart. He feels that his grandson has become a little hypocritical recently. Jufe was really anxious at first because of an accident with his mother and sister. He even quarreled with his grandfather and drove to Oris Hill by himself overnight. However, these days, Elijah felt that Jufe seemed to pay less attention to the affairs of his mother and sister. Although he has been in Oris Hill, he has rarely directly participated in the search for the whereabouts of the two. He is busy doing concert arrangements every day. It feels as if the importance of concerts is a bit more than his mother and sister. However, Elijah naturally didn't say anything at this time, and the dissatisfaction in his heart was crushed by him deep inside. At this time, Renal said, "Jufe and Zhiyu, sit down quickly. It just happens that we are just starting to eat. You also have 2 drinks together to celebrate the safe return of your mother and sister." Jufe hurriedly said, "Okay, uncle." After sitting down, Jufe and other family members toasted again to celebrate, but he always had a doubt in his heart, who saved his mother and sister. However, with so many people on the table right now, it is difficult for him to question Zhiyu in detail, so he can only temporarily suppress this question to the bottom of his heart. Just when he and his family were pushing cups and changing cups, the phone suddenly received a WeChat message. He looked down and saw that it was his grandfather Chengfeng who sent him this message. He hurriedly clicked and viewed the message sent by Chengfeng, which read, "Jufe, I want to know if the person who saved your mother and your sister this time is the Chinese who saved you in Japan. You have always had a relationship with Zhiyu. Get close, you must find a way to get the truth out of her mouth." Jufe twitched in his heart, and said to himself, why did Grandpa ask? Is it really the benefactor who saved Mom and Zhiyu? But, it's a bit unlikely. The benefactor is in Japan, and Zhiyu was looking for him. She hasn't got any results for so long. How could he suddenly appear in Oris Hill and save Zhiyu again? Is he a stalker who has been following Zhiyu in secret? Then Zhiyu has been looking for him for so long, why didn't he show up? It always feels weird and unbelievable. Reminiscent of the second uncle and father disappearing in Oris Hill one after another, Jufe felt even bigger. I always feel that it is unlikely that the benefactor is behind this. Otherwise, even if he secretly protects Zhiyu, he doesn't need to attack my second uncle and my father one after another, right? The Su family has never offended him from beginning to end, and even suffered a lot from him. Why should he act on the Su family? After thinking about it for a long time, Jufe couldn't understand the cause and effect. He could only temporarily put these thoughts behind him, and quietly replied to Chung Fong, "Okay, Grandpa, I must find a way to ask Zhiyu." While Liona and Zhiyu reunited with their family and gathered together, Charlie also returned to his home. This trip to Syria did not take too long. Although Charlie flew back and forth tens of thousands of kilometers, and many things happened, it was actually just one night. Therefore, when he returned home, his wife Claire, his father-in-law Jacob, and his mother-in-law Elaine were very surprised. Claire had just had dinner with her parents. Seeing Charlie came back, she hurriedly stepped forward to help him take off his coat, and said in surprise, "Husband, why did you come back in such a short time when you went out this time?" Charlie smiled and said, "This time the matter was relatively simple, I came back directly after handling the things." Claire hurriedly asked, "Then have you eaten dinner? I made the noodles at night, which was quite delicious, so I will order you some noodles." Charlie asked, curiously, "Claire, aren't you busy during this time? Why do you have so much time today, and you still have to cook by yourself?" Claire smiled and said, "I went to the Embrand group for a meeting this afternoon. The first phase of the plan has completely passed the review of the group, so I can relax a little bit." It just so happens that I came home early today, and spent some time in our vegetable garden. The garlic moss grows quite well, so I picked a little bit and cooked the garlic sprouts, fried pork, and marinated noodles. As she said, she hurriedly took Charlie's hand to the restaurant, and spoke as she walked. It's such a short time for you to go back and forth. It must be very hard to travel too much in a short time. I will cook the noodles for you. Seeing Claire caring about him so much, Charlie was also moved in his heart, nodded lightly, and smiled. Then it will be hard work for you, wife. Claire smiled sweetly. There is no hardship at all. Entering the restaurant, father-in-law Jacob and his mother-in-law Elaine had just finished their meal. Seeing Charlie come in, Jacob said with joy, "Oh, good son-in-law is back. Where did you go this time? You came back so soon."